Hello everyone, welcome again to my channel. This video is basically going to talk about what has happened since I given birth to Nayeli and obstacles that she's faced and overcome, how it has been for me. So stay tuned. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Also share if you can. So let's get started.
Come with me, let's see how this crazy world works out with me. We can do it, there's no doubt. With my inspirational thoughts, we'll toss the dawn.
Okay, so it's been 108 days of Nayeli being in the hospital. So the first week, after I gave birth, like right away they put her in an incubator with humidity because they had to like recreate the womb in a way. So I went to go see her. I couldn't even stand because I think the epidural got my foot numb and I couldn't walk or anything, so I could barely really see her through the glass. And it was also, like when there's heat, is it called condensation, when the glass is foggy and everything, you can't really see inside. But I could see a little bit like of her, like obviously her skin wasn't totally developed yet. I could see that she had bruises on her arm, like right here, on her thighs and everything like that. It was really bad. So the first week of life, they basically start giving her all the nutrients and everything that she needed through her umbilical cord. So I think every preemie babies get that for a couple days, but because Nayeli was so small, they couldn't get anything like they call it a pick line that they go through the arm if they find veins. She was too small, so like she had to have that umbilical cord. She had to get everything through her umbilical cord longer than how they normally go about doing that. So it was time for me to pump and for me to develop some milk so that she could get something to eat or swab her mouth with, because they say it's full of antibodies, the breast milk. So even that, like if I get anything, I used to just put swabs in bottles just so I could do mouth care with her. Then what else? So I was able to produce milk for them to start feeding her. I think it was day 7 of life they started feeding her like 1 ml. I did everything to make sure that I was able to produce milk, but unfortunately that didn't like go on for long because I wasn't able to produce enough because she started to grow and everything like that. So so she was born June 27th. On July 8th, I can remember, it was a Friday, I called to check in on her and they were like, oh, she has an infection. At that point I wasn't really, before that I wasn't really worried about anything, but like when you hear that she has an infection, which they said that is possible, especially if they're going to be having that giving her everything through that umbilical line that should have been out a while back. She was prone for infections. They told me, I was like so sad and hurt in a way, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go see her. I had an appointment that day, so I was leaving the doctor, so I had to go see her. And in the first 3 days of life, the doctors were like, we have to look out for brain bleed because in the first 3 days of life, preemies are prone to brain bleed. And given that Nayeli was so small, like anything was possible. So we passed the brain bleed part of it, and then actually the same night when she was born, they had to give her blood because she didn't really have any blood, so they did a blood transfusion. she's had probably over 10 blood transfusion. I actually keep track of how many she has and the days that she's had it. So I heard she had an infection, then I had to go to the hospital because I'm like, okay, I need to go see her, see what's going on. And you know, that's when the doctor was again like, okay, her platelets are low, and normally when her platelets are low, they tend to gather at a certain part of the body, and they're like, we're gonna do a x-ray, I think, just to see if there's any brain bleed. I was there alone at that point, so I was panicking because I felt everything, because the doctor's like, oh, do you have any support and everything? I'm like, I do have support, but at that time I was there alone. And when they left, there's like a little curtain part in the room, so I drew the curtain, and for the first time since Nayeli was born, I cried so hard. I was so sad. I was like, oh my god, like, why did this have to happen to her? Like, you know, like feeling guilty that my body kind of failed her in a way, and she has to like literally come out and be going through all of this. See, I'm getting all emotional because I just remember how I felt in that moment. And then I had to call my mom because I'm like, I need to talk to somebody who I know is going to be able to pick up right away, because I did not feel like I wanted to call anyone in that moment that I know I wouldn't get them, because at that time I needed to talk to someone. So I called my mom and I was crying because I was like, see, I'm getting emotional, hold on. And I was saying that, you know, I don't understand why she has to go through all of this. I don't understand anything that is going on, because you know. And she's like, you know what, just pray about everything, trust God, trust the process and everything like that. And you know, after that I went to go look at my daughter, and somehow I just felt better and got this strength of like, okay, you need to get it together, like she is fighting, okay, because she didn't have to make it this far, but she's fighting, so you have to keep it together for both of you guys. So I was able to adjust my emotions in that particular moment. They did the x-ray, she didn't have a brain bleed. I was like, thank you God, because you know, that sounds scary. Like, what are you gonna do to a baby that has a brain bleed and then she is so tiny already? Like, what could they do, you know? So I'm glad that she didn't have that. So you know, kept going. She had a couple infections over the course of the 108 days. See, I can't even remember how everything went, but I can remember, but right now in this moment making my video, I can't seem to remember a lot of those things. So what I normally used to do was do every other night at the hospital with her. Like, I would literally not sleep when I'm at the hospital, because to how her respiratory used to drop so frequently, like every couple minutes you're hearing a beep going off, and it was just too much. And even now when I sleep at the hospital, I literally do not sleep. I just stay up. I get to peek at her whenever. Also, because with everything happening so drastically, I had to go back. Like, I was thinking about, okay, I'm gonna go back to work. I'm not even gonna take my 3 months because I need to go back to work. I need to save my time, you know. Like, I was just thinking about saving my time at that point. So like, I only spent 4 weeks out on leave, and I used to be there every single day pretty much, like often. But then I went back to work and I wasn't there all the time. And then when things would happen and they're like, oh, they give me like a report that, okay, this is happening to her today, she's not really feeling that great. But I am still grateful that whenever I did get an update, it wasn't anything too drastic, you know what I mean? Like, God has favored Nayeli, and So I would be at work, and once I hear something is off, I'm not gonna be focused on work. And I try to remain strong, try to do what I needed to do. And I'm a recruiter, so my job is basically talking to people and interviewing people on a daily basis. So if I'm not having a good day, I have to literally put my how I'm feeling aside to actually do my job. So that those days were hard when I would hear something and I have to, like, okay, do my job in that same breath. Um, After a while, with ups and downs, like, so Nayeli would put on weight, she would lose weight, she will not gain weight. It would be decreasing, decreasing, decreasing. And one of the things that I realized that really messed me up, like, I had a release date for her, um, that I had in mind that I wanted. Um, so she was supposed to be born in October 31st, right? So I'm like, okay, these things need to happen really fast for her to get out. I wasn't really taking it day by day. I wasn't really taking it hour by hour. I was just in my mindset. I'm like, this is what I want. So every time when she make progress and then do two steps back, that put an extra toll on me. And um, honestly, I was very angry because I still I was questioning God. I'm like, I don't understand why. Like, why did you bring her um to, like, literally suffer? I'm like, what did she do? Like, was it really everything that I did in my life, the mistakes that I made, why my daughter has to literally be suffering? So I was really mad. And a few times, so she has the tube in her mouth. So a few times throughout this 3 months, they have tried to excubate her, to try to put her on a different machine, like the CPAP machine. She last they did it 3 times. So the first time she lasted, I want to say probably like 6 hours or something like that. So I wasn't there because I was at work, so I didn't even see her on that new machine. The second time they did it, I was out of work, so I was able to be there with her and see what it was like for her to be on that machine. She lasted 8 hours. She was doing great, and then they had to take her off that machine. And when that happened, because I was so excited, like, yes, we're moving forward, she's gonna come out soon. And that moving forward, when she didn't do well after that 8 hours. She required 100% oxygen, so they said, okay, we have to put the tube back in for her to be able to breathe. And I had to leave the room for them to do that, and I went out and I was alone. I'm alone for most of these situations. So I am in the hospital, sitting in the family room, and I am in my head, and I just want to scream. I'm like, I want to scream. I'm cursing. I'm mad. I'm like, what? Why? I kept asking, why, God, why? And I was so disappointed and hurt, and then I went back into the room, and at this point she's bigger and she's put on weight and she has her own little personality, because the first week of life when she was in the hospital, they already calling her feisty. I'm like, what is she doing? Why are you saying she's feisty? Come to find out, I really found out that this girl is really feisty. She has a personality, like, already. Like, before she was like a whole month, she had her way and her personality. Like, she literally do not like anyone touching her. She will like 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 push your hand away. She would give you some stares. Like, nurses tell me all the time that, like, if they're drawing blood, and she's like literally looking at them in their eyes, like, what are you doing to me? I do not like this. You need to get away from me. And she's not really fussy. So that's the kind of personality that Nayeli have. So after, I was so mad, and I went back into the room and I looked at her, and looking at her, she was looking around with her bright eyes and as if nothing has happened. And nothing had happened. And in that moment, I looked at her and I just smiled and I felt joy and happiness and gratefulness, because here I am mad that she wasn't able to be on that machine for so long, but she still have life, and she is still like, oh, everything is okay. Just doing what she normally does. So I get strength from her in that way, because when I look at her, it's like nothing phases her. I remember a few times where I wasn't there and I called for an update, and the nurse is like, oh, we had to bag her. I'm like, what do you mean bag her? Um, this means that, like when you watch shows and they do have the oxygen mask on over people and they're like doing the bag thing. So I guess she was desatting, her heart rate falls, and they weren't able, the machine that she was on wasn't able to like bring her up fast enough, so they had to do the bagging. The first time I heard that, I was so stressed. Like, I'm like, oh my god, that sounds so drastic, and it is drastic, you know. So I literally had to really come out of work, because honestly it was getting way too much of emotional roller coaster. Like, I feel like I didn't have time to set in, like, okay, this is something new, this is all happening. You're gonna jump back into work not really understanding the emotional roller coaster that you were gonna go through. So yeah, I had to come back out of work, and honestly I've had time to just really be okay with myself, instead of like having things go wrong and my emotions are not balanced, and then I have to really just put aside what I'm feeling to do my job. Like, I've had time to really like take it in and really cope, you know what I'm saying? So that's what has been happening since I got out of work. So it's been better. She had IV in her head the first time I saw an IV in her head, because she's still small, she doesn't really have a lot of developed veins. I saw an IV in her head. I'm gonna tell you right now, I felt all that in my whole body. I was like mad. I was like, an IV in her head, why? Like, but I understand. She didn't have any more veins. She had an infection. She needed blood transfusion, all these extra things that needed to happen. So she got an IV twice in her head. The second one kind of left a bruise, and I'm not really happy about that. But it hasn't really affected her in any way. But I definitely made it clear, like, no more IV in her head, because the second one did not go that great. So, just like overcoming all of that Nayeli roller coaster. For me, I'm just going through a lot of different emotions, and she is actually going through all the pain, all the difficulty, and I'm like, this kid is so strong. Like, ever since she was born, you could tell that she is so strong, and she is a warrior, and she's a fighter, like, legit. And it's so crazy that I get so much strength from looking at her, when she's going through everything. Like, I've been there a few times where she decided her heart rate fell and they had to bag her, and after that, like, she was like stretching, acting like nothing happened, and I'm like, you're just so amazing. I've been there where they try to find veins and they pick her a few times, and she didn't cry. She doesn't fuss a lot, and she wasn't crying when they're picking at her, because every single day since she was born they had to get labs. Like, every single day they were picking her for blood. It was when she was probably like, I want to say maybe almost 2 months, they started giving her lab breaks, which meant that that was good for her. I had to make decisions about medication. I don't know anything. I'm afraid, like, I want everything to be done for her, but at the same time, here we are going through all these medications, and I have to make these decisions, which was a lot. I'm like, I don't know what's right, I don't know what's wrong, like, so this whole process, I've been praying every single day, every conscious moment I'm praying about her. And I'm always like, God, let your will be done and please continue to favor her. And honestly, I feel like I've seen God's favors in her life. I haven't said that, oh, this stuff that happened so drastically, even though, like, them having to bag her is a drastic thing for her to go through and for me to go through, just to know what that is. But she has been so strong. She has overcome so many challenges, and now I'm even stronger because just by drawing and knowing who Nayeli is, like that has given me strength to cope and deal with everything because she's so strong. She doesn't let anything phase her in any way, and I really admire her for that. Like they always, you'd expect that your kids are supposed to admire you, not like the other way around. Um, in certain things, but like I literally get my strength from her. She is teaching me so many different ways of coping and how to look at life because just because of who she is. um she's wonderful, she's great. Her personality is out of this world. She likes to stretch every minute that she gets. She stretch, she likes to touch everything. She actually um um excubated herself the last time they tried a CPAP machine. Yep. I called to check on her. They said that they didn't call me because it wasn't anything, no bad news. So she literally took the tube out of her mouth, and now that's the reason why she's on the different machine now, because it's like as if she knew that she was ready to, like, oh, it's time for all of this to be out. I want to move to the next step. Like she is always like, this is an image of Nayeli on a daily basis. Like she touches her face so delicately, so sophisticated. Her hands are always at her face. Like when you see people at the beach and they're laying on, like trying to get a tan. This is Nayeli every day, like with her hands up like this, laying back, and her feet crossed like this, like relaxing on the beach. That's how she is all the time. So like when new nurses get her and they're like, oh my god, she's so feisty, she touches everything. I'm like, yeah, that's Nayeli. So I kind of get a preview of what she's doing when I'm not there, and it brings me joy because I'm like, that's my baby girl, she's awesome. The journey's not over yet. She's still in the hospital. I am not sure when she's gonna get out, but I look forward to sharing our some more of her journey with you guys. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can always comment, and I'll be able to answer them. So again, thanks for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe, and also comment. Thank you.